Yes, you might take a job that you don't really want to do, but it's in the area that you want to be in. So you never know where it's going to take you. The game is getting your foot in the door.
Advice for people who are looking to get into the industry.
Personally, I think that everybody should get their toes wet in actually working operations in a theme park first.
As long as you are willing to put in the effort to learn as quickly as possible and to ask the questions, that's how you flourish.
Welcome to another episode of Experience Imagination. I'm your host, Audrey DeLong. One of the things that struck me when I started at Falcons was how many different disciplines work under this one roof. It's clear to me now why we have so many. It's because Falcons offers such a wide range of services across the themed entertainment industry. So today, instead of focusing on one specific aspect of themed entertainment like we normally do, we're turning our attention to how you can get your start in this industry. You'll hear from several of my talented colleagues about their educational backgrounds, what soft skills they feel are important, and what they wanted to be growing up. Spoiler alert, it's almost never what they're doing today at Falcons. Stick around, Foot in the Door Part 5 is coming up next.
Hi, I'm Cade Torkelson. I'm a project coordinator.
All right, so it's nice to have you, Cade.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So tell us what you wanted to be when you were growing up.
When I was growing up, I wanted to design roller coasters. Randomly, there was a program for roller coaster simulation that appeared on our family computer. And I don't know who put it on it, but I just started to play with it and then became fascinated with roller coasters. And then that led to playing more video games about theme parks. And then just all of my life, I wanted to build theme parks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you knew you wanted to go to college for that?
No, not at the time because I didn't know that existed back then.
As a job?
Correct.
So what'd you go to school for?
I went to school for film production, specifically creative producing.
And do you feel like that education prepared you for the job you have today?
In a lot of capacities, yes, because the reason why I switched from a creative-based degree to a more like business-oriented degree, project management degree, producing, was that I realized that I'm way better at analytical skills than creative skills. And so it really taught me how to actually like make things happen and coordinate people and coordinate efforts and all the paperwork and all of that. That's when I realized that, oh, I'm good at this. I understand the creativity, but I'm better at making it all happen. So yeah, all of those skills I learned there translated into this.
All right. So your first professional job in themed entertainment was at Falcons?
It was.
All right. So you've been at Falcons, a little over a year?
Correct.
Okay. So what do you think the best soft skills are in this industry?
Number one, adaptability. Adaptability is huge here. Especially when you're working at a design studio that is well-versed in a lot of different mediums, different focuses of expertises. And so adaptability has been crucial. It will remain crucial in our company. And I think it's the same in a lot of different themed entertainment design studios, is that you just need to be able to pick up new skills, go into things maybe you don't know that expertise, but as long as you are willing to put in the effort to learn as quickly as possible and to ask the questions, then that's how you flourish.
Okay. So if somebody asks you, hey, Cade, I really want to break into themed entertainment, what would you tell them?
Be genuine about your networking. Networking is such a hot term nowadays, but I think a lot of individuals who are coming out of education or who are just wanting to break in, go about networking in the capacity of seeking out a job from networking. And it is truly about being genuine with your networking and asking questions and getting to know that individual and what their job is. Because when you go about networking, you truly should be doing it to find out, is this a good fit for me? Is that career interesting to me? And have your conversation based on that.
Well, Cade, what else do you want to add about working in themed entertainment?
Find a balance of professionalism and passion. When you're working in this industry, you put a lot of yourself in what you're doing, and it can cause burnout or negative feelings if you don't strike that balance in between your passion in everything that you do and then your personal life. when you're here at work, you're giving it your all. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to take the hat off, breathe, relax a little bit, and do outside hobbies and passions and activities. And it just creates a much better balance between work and life and longevity inside the industry.
Really good advice. Well, I'm happy that you could join us today to tell us a little bit
Thank
about your
you.
story.
Thank you.
Hey, Hannah, thanks for being on Experience Imagination.
Hey, Audrey. Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
So give us your full name and what you do at Falcons. What's your title?
I am Hannah Jabalisco, and I'm a software engineer.
All right, Hannah, tell us, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
So all I knew is that I wanted to create, and I wanted to build. And that took so many different forms. I wanted to be a writer, then a musician, and then I found out about software engineering. And I realized that coding is a tool to be able to create anything, essentially. So it kind of married this creative side of me with the more technical side. So this is essentially what I wanted to be.
Well, I love that. So you knew growing up you wanted to be that. So was there a certain school or schools that you targeted where you could study what you wanted to be?
Well, that's why I chose the school that I ended up going to, which was Stetson University. It's a smaller liberal arts school, and they have more of a focus on the arts and on the creative, but they also had a great computer science program. So I realized that if I were to study computer science in such a creative space, it could inspire me to do creative things with coding.
It sounds like a good choice for a school.
Yeah, had a great experience.
So did you ever think you'd work in themed entertainment?
You know, I always knew that I'd find somewhere that's creative that I can also be technical in, but themed entertainment, I didn't exactly know what that was really until I found Falcons.
Yeah. Okay, so Falcons is your first job in themed entertainment?
Yes.
Ah, okay. So how did you get here?
So I was just looking for jobs in software engineering because I've experimented with so many different subfields of software engineering, and most of them were very technical, very kind of dry, and I wanted somewhere where I could really flourish as a creative, but also do what I love as well with coding. And I saw this listing and I was like, this seems perfect. This seems genuinely perfect to combine my love for immersive technology and creative tech.
Right. Okay, so you work on interactives.
I do.
Okay. What do you think are the 2 to 3 most important soft skills that somebody can have in this industry?
I would say curiosity is a big one. Always stay curious about what other teams are doing, what the greater company is doing, where their minds are, and see where you might be able to fit in. Just really be curious about where your skills could help augment things.
Okay, so curiosity is a good one.
Yeah.
What else would you say?
I would say with that, communication, because you need to be comfortable with saying, hey, what are you working on? Or maybe think of ways that you could actually help a team accomplish what they want to help, what you want to do with them. So I would say curiosity combined with communication is a great way to flourish.
Okay, those are 2 really good ones. And also being able to explain what you're doing, because you have a technical job at Falcon. So do you ever have to explain what you're doing to people who aren't necessarily that tech savvy?
Many times, but I think the key to what I do here is to make it so what I create is very user understandable and has a great UI, UX, obviously working with different teams to make that happen. But I do find myself explaining the technicalities to the less technical teams. But I think a good job means that I created something that's very easy to understand for anybody.
Okay, so if somebody said, hey, Hannah, I really want to break into themed entertainment, can you give me some advice? What would you tell them?
At least from an engineering perspective, I would say always build things, whether it's in your free time or at your job, that reflect not what you can do, but how you think. You know, because all of us have such unique minds. And I think that if you really showcase yourself and your personality in your work, especially in a creative space, people are going to look to you for things. People are going to, oh, I think that she can do this, or I think he could do this with our team. Yeah. But I always try to put my own personal spin on it and think of ways that could really show how I think in my personality in my work.
I like that. So anything else you want to add about finding success in themed entertainment or working in themed entertainment?
I think it's such a great industry, especially if you have, or you're balancing so many interests and 2 sides of your mind, especially, at least in my experience, the technical and the creative. It's perfect because there's so much technicality and there's so much space to be able to create.
Well, great. I love this conversation. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, I did. I hope you did too.
All right, we did. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Joseph.
Hi, Audrey.
It's nice to have you on Experience Imagination.
I am so happy to be here.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. This is an important episode. First of all, give us your full name and job title.
I'm Joseph Lobato, and I'm a production supervisor.
What did you want to be growing up, Joseph?
Originally, I really wanted to be a comic book artist. So I just drew a lot and made little comic books and put them together with tape and all that kind of stuff when I was a kid.
What?
Yeah.
I would not have guessed that about you. But you are in a creative field.
I'm a creative field. Yeah, my whole first youth was all about being creative. So painting and comic books and making music, which led into my other later stages in life.
Okay. Well, talk about your early career because it's important for listeners to understand. A lot of the people at Falcons had different careers before they came here, totally outside of themed entertainment. So how did you get into themed entertainment?
Originally, when I was like about 16 or 17, I come from a very musical family. So I was always painting and doing arts and stuff like that. And I come from a musical family, so I wanted to be a musician. And then I went into a recording studio for the very first time. I think it was like 17. I went to go record. We paid some guy like $400 from like a studio thing in the middle of nowhere. And I went in there and did my little thing and came back out. And then I just saw what he was doing on the board. And I was like, what are you doing? And he was like going. I kept asking him questions and bugging him for it. And I was like, you know what? No, I want to be a recording engineer. So then like 19, I ended up going to recording school for engineering. And that was my whole first almost a decade of my career was recording music.
Let's back it up because I know you had another career after that before themed entertainment.
That's right. So I used to record music, and that was like my whole bag. And the music industry started to decline quite a bit. So I got like a little side job. It was like maybe 8 months working at a coffee shop and still trying to record friends' bands and work at this coffee shop. I was living in LA. I grew up there. Met an actor, typical like Hollywood story. Actor comes in, you become friendly, and he's like, why are you working here? Come work for me. And so I was like, okay, I'll go do that. So I went to go work for an actor's small production company, originally as just like the engineer to help with like little commercial spots and like little things. And then that evolved into, hey, you know Pro Tools. Do you think you could learn Avid and Final Cut Pro? And I was like, I'd figure it out. It's the same thing. And they're like, hey, since you're doing that, do you think you could help us go figure out this camera? And I was like, I'll figure it out. Let's go. And yeah, and that's kind of like evolved into other things. And then I left and said, you know what, LA is not working for me. I had a girlfriend at the time. She says, let's just move to San Francisco.
Okay.
So I just moved to San Francisco, didn't have a job. You know, I had all this experience before. And I just saw ILM was there at Lucasfilm.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to go work there. And I had to take a big step back in my career and start over as a PA again.
No.
Yeah. So I started as a runner and like, I really want to work there. I don't care. Because this is where I want to work and I want to be there. I hounded the recruiters. I hounded people that I kind of met that might have worked there, and I just kind of wouldn't let up until they eventually hired me as a PA, and I got to go work there with some amazing people for quite a few years, which kickstarted my visual effects career for about 15 years. And then I landed here and working in themed entertainment.
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who says, hey, Joseph, I'm really looking forward to my themed entertainment career, but I have no idea how to break in. What do I do?
I think look at it the way that I kind of transitioned through my whole career. It's kind of like an improv. It's always yes and, treating your next opportunity like that. You never know where it's going to come from. Yes, you might take a job that you don't really want to do, but it's in the area that you want to be in. So once you're in there, your foot's in the door. Now it's up to you to like show them what you're made of and show them what you're interested in, because companies love to promote from within. So It doesn't matter if you come in as one thing and you get there and you do a good job at that one thing and you say, I'm really good at doing this. I love the job. Thank you for that. I would love to be a part of this portion of the business. And then people recognize that. They're like, well, you're really good at this. Maybe you can do this. And that was something that I learned when I started as a PA. It was like, if you can get really good at just, my job was ordering the food, making sure that the leads and artists showed up for dailies, getting them in the room, making sure the agenda was tight. And that was the limit of my responsibilities. And always ordered the food, made sure it was there. And they're like, hey, you can really order the food. Let me explain to you how this other thing's going on. Because I was like, I really want to know about, lighting, or I really want to know about this. And they would just explain it to you because they noticed that you were still had that work ethic. I was passionate about it. You never know where it's going to take you. So I would just say, if you're trying to break into the industry, don't not take a job because it's not 100% what you want to do. The name of the game is getting your foot in the door.
These are wise words. I'm not surprised.
Thank you.
You're one of our more experienced leaders on the team. And guess what? We appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you. We appreciate you and all of you guys.
Stop.
Oh,
All right.
stop.
Well, thanks for being on Experience Imagination.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, Meg, thanks for being on Experience Imagination.
Oh, thank you, Audrey. Happy to be here.
So let's give our listeners your full name and your job title.
So my name is Megan Mayer, and I am a narrative design manager.
Okay. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
I wanted to be a zookeeper, actually.
A zookeeper?
Yep.
Wow.
But
Why?
I've always loved animals. I've always loved interacting with them, being around them. And it turned into loving animal psychology and learning about behaviors and that kind of thing.
Really? Okay. So tell us where you went to school, first of all, and what was your degree in?
So I went to school at Ringling College of Art and Design down in Sarasota, and I have a bachelor's degree in computer animation.
So you've been in the industry for a while, so you probably have some pretty good advice about soft skills. Tell our listeners what you think the top 2 to 3 soft skills are for somebody in themed entertainment.
Communication.
Okay.
At the top
Verbal,
of it.
written, what
All
kind?
of it. Because verbal communication is good for conveying the ideas, especially at a high level, and kind of just getting all the ideas out as much as you can. And then written communication is important for if you do not have that privilege to be able to have the face-to-face and talking to each other. It's to document what that communication was and to confirm what that communication was so that there's no room for interpretation on what the plan is. And it is part of what keeps everything consistent for everyone. Adaptability is huge, is very, very huge. Never ever settle and become extremely specialized and honed in on your favorite program, your favorite style, your favorite work type of work. You have to adapt in order to essentially keep working. And I don't say this necessarily as the hard skills of okay, well, I got to learn coding, but I also got to learn animation. I got to learn this. I got to learn you can kind of keep things more or less in the same wheelhouse, but you figure out different ways, a variety of ways to apply those skills. Like for me, drawing characters as a child, I've used it to do animation, merchandise, theme park design, illustration, graphic design. You have to have a set base of skills and be able to change those skills and figure out how to kind of spin them to apply to whatever problem you need to solve.
All right. So advice for people who are looking to get into the industry. So it could be a college student. It could be an experienced professional who has never worked in themed entertainment, but they want to make that transition. What would you tell them?
Personally, I think that everybody should get their toes wet in actually working operations in a theme park first.
Really?
Yes,
Why
I
is
believe
that?
Because knowing what the day-to-day process of of being in a theme park and operating a theme park will heavily inform how you design said theme park. Because the frontline workers at theme parks, they are the most patient and to me, highly skilled and adaptable people out there because of how much things change, how difficult hours are, how the fact of just being frontward public facing for all hours of the day. You interact with all kinds of personalities and all kinds of people. Some of you are coming with an argument already in hand because they just want to be mean to you. And others are usually the nicest people you've ever met because you're making their day for them or their whole vacation.
Yeah.
And I'm heavily subscribed to the old Walt Disney adage of your theme park is only as good as its people.
Oh, so true.
Yeah. So I think that all theme park designers, regardless of what position they want to be in, they should at least start off in the theme parks so they can understand what it's like to be there day to day. You'll look at things differently when you're designing them because you'll be thinking about, man, that's going to be really hot to stand under. Or man, or it's the drainage on that looks really bad.
Yeah.
Or there's so much stuff in here, nobody's going to dust it. It's going to accumulate. Very minute details that is not usually captured in the design process.
Anything else you want to tell our listeners about working in themed entertainment?
Everybody is here to help one another, and that is what our goal as a team is. We are here to help one another, and it's in all of our best interests if we all clearly communicate and adapt and try to mesh with each other as best as we can.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thanks for being here. This was
Thank
fun. All right, so I'm here with Anna. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Experience Imagination.
Thank you.
Can you give our listeners your full name and your title?
Hello. My name is Ana Tejitut, and I'm a BIM designer.
Okay, BIM designer. What does a BIM designer do?
Revit all day long. So Revit is a software that we use to model architectural show set, like all type of different models. And basically that's the primary software that we use here. So that's what I do.
Okay, so tell our listeners what you wanted to be when you were growing up.
Basically, I wanted to be a professional ballerina, theme park designer, or a magician.
A theme park designer entered your mind. So you
Yes.
knew that was a job.
Yes. Well, I thought like somebody needs to do this.
Yeah.
You know, my parents were like, of course, it's a building. Of course, it's an architect. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I want to be an architect. But when people ask me, I was just like, I want to design theme parks.
Yeah. Well, we get a lot of architects
Yep.
in this industry.
Of course.
A lot of the older ones, there was no schooling specifically for themed entertainment or themed entertainment design or experiential design. So you had to start somewhere.
100%.
So you knew you were going to go to college for architecture?
Yes. So at that point, when I did decide, I was actually doing ballet at the same time. So I was a ballet dancer. And I got the opportunity to be like going to a program to be professional. And I was like, okay, am I going to do professional ballerina or theme park designer? I did like a 3 weeks studio classes to see if I really wanted it. And then I just said, this is not for me. I'm going to go back to study architecture.
Wow.
So like, okay, I'm going to do my master's in architecture, and I'm also going to do a theme entertainment certificate. I graduate from my master's in architecture and I also graduate with a graduate certificate in theme entertainment. That's how I started.
So speaking about the themed entertainment industry in general, what do you think are the 2 to 3 most important soft skills somebody can have in themed entertainment?
Okay, I think number 1, curiosity. Number 2, empathy. And number 3, flexibility.
Empathy is an interesting one. Why do you say
Yeah.
that?
Because I just think the industry is like too big, and there's a lot of different careers and people involved in every project. It's just so complex that you need to understand where everybody's coming from. And just, like the lighting has something to do, the shows, it has something to say. Like everybody has part in the whole play. So I think it's just important to understand like why some changes need to be made, and maybe it's not the best change for you and what you do, but maybe it's the best change that needs to be done for the project.
Okay, well, this is the time for advice. That's why we do these Foot in the Door episodes.
Great, okay.
We like to give advice. So if somebody said, hey, Anna, I'm really hoping to break into themed entertainment,
Okay.
what would you tell them?
First, like try it, like keep trying and trying and trying. Like there's 1,000 doors. You just need to keep knocking. Second, try to meet people through LinkedIn. Connect with people on social. It's very important. It opens a lot of doors. Even if you're not in the same city as the other person, that helps a lot, and that's a great tool. And third, if you are in a city where there's like a group of any kind, called Ayapa, Slice, TA, they do like a lot of gatherings and socials. Try to go to one of them. And if you have the opportunity to study something related to it, like a master's, or get more niched in what you do, but focusing on theme entertainment, like go for it. Like it's worth it.
Yeah, there's a lot of graduates.
Yeah.
Right now, we're recording in early June. So is there any specific advice, speaking from kind of an architecture mindset,
Okay.
what would you tell somebody who maybe just graduated with architecture degree or some kind of design degree? What kind of portfolio to have, how to present their work that they've done in college? Anything specific there?
In the theme industry, yes, it is very technical, but also very creative. So try to show both in your portfolio, like who you are as a person, who you are as a designer, but also the technical skills that you have, and that you can show who you are as a designer but also as a person.
Well, we're glad you're at Falcons, and
Yeah,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
you being on.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Hi, Paige. Thanks
Hi.
for being on Experience Imagination.
Thanks for having me.
Give us your full name and tell us what your title is at Falcons.
My name is Paige Cunningham, and I'm a show set designer here.
Okay, so Paige, tell us, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
I actually wanted to be a veterinarian when I was growing
Oh.
up.
A lot of people say that.
Really?
They do. A lot of people want to be a veterinarian. So why did you decide not to be a vet?
I don't think that I could operate on animals. I just don't think I could do it.
Okay. Where did you end up going to college and what did you study there?
I went to the University of Southern Mississippi and I studied interior design. And it was recommended that I go and get my master's in illustration. So that's when I continued on to SCAD to get my MFA. And I'm working on that now.
Ah, okay. So you're still working on your MFA?
Yes,
Okay.
2 classes away.
Nice. Okay. So what was your first job in themed entertainment?
My first job was here at Falcons. I started as a junior CAD designer on the technical team.
Nice. Okay. Is CAD something that you studied in school?
It is. We only had 1 semester of it, though, so I did a lot of teaching myself.
Okay. What programs are you using now?
We use CAD some still, but we're now starting to branch out into Revit. We use Rhino for 3D modeling. I use a lot of Photoshop, things like that.
Okay. If somebody is working in another industry and they say, hey, Paige, can you give me some advice on how to get into themed entertainment? What would you tell them?
Well, I started out in a different industry before I came here as well. So my previous job was in interior design, and I specified steel case furniture at a dealership in Jackson, Mississippi. So I would say, even if you think maybe your background of skills don't apply to the job, still give it a shot anyway. Because I did not think my background would apply at all, but I still applied. And luckily, my steel case specifying job is actually, from what I was told, was actually what got me recognized to get the junior CAD designer job.
Oh, okay. So we know a lot of people just graduated. We're recording this in early June. What advice would you give to people who studied something similar to what you studied if they want to break into themed entertainment?
I would say definitely reach out to industry professionals. I reached out to Don Carson, who was a former Disney Imagineer, not expecting to hear back at all. I figured he probably had a lot of people reaching out to him and he was busy and just didn't pay that much attention and just didn't have time to. But he got back to me and he helped me decide on going to SCAD to get my master's and what program I should study. He recommended companies to look at. And then before I got the job here at Falcons, I asked him if he would maybe help mentor me in a way to create an attraction to put in my portfolio since I didn't have anything industry specific. And he said I would, but luckily maybe a week or 2 weeks later, I actually got the job here at Falcons, so I didn't wind up needing that anymore.
Oh, okay. You know, mentorships are so important too. I don't think people even think about that kind of thing.
Yes, they really are.
And it's surprising how many people are willing, older people that have been in the industry for a long time that are willing to reach out and be that mentor.
Yes.
We know networking is important. What are some of the other outside the box suggestions?
So when I first started, I actually found work that I really liked on Pinterest, and I saved it to a board, and then I would follow the website to their portfolio of work, and I would review what they had, and then sometimes I would use their work to try to practice my own work or try to study and understand what their skill level was and what their style was and things like that. And I would look up different names on LinkedIn because I know you can go to someone's page on LinkedIn and see who else they're connected with or get connections suggested to you. And you can do it that way too.
Yeah. Well, Paige, this was a lot of fun. Hopefully you had a good time.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing your advice.
Absolutely.
I am Clinton Gove, and I am a senior controls engineer.
First of all, thank you for being on Experience Imagination.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
My first question for you is, what was your first job in the themed entertainment industry?
I got hired to be a project resource coordinator for Oceaneering Entertainment Systems and worked in the scheduling department. So what I would do is basically, let's say we need X number of electrical engineers for a certain project. I would identify who those were and then how many electrical engineers we had in total to work on all the other projects, staffing levels, stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got started.
Okay. So tell us what you went to college for and if you feel like your degree helped you get your job at OES.
I went to ITG Tech. It was kind of more of a vocational school, so I focused more on like electrical engineering, electronics, stuff like that. So I focused more on that side of the stuff instead of a traditional college where it's like, underwater art appreciation and stuff like that, So it was more focused towards my career is like troubleshooting, problem solving, stuff like that. And I think like the experiences that I got there really helped me as far as my career now.
What are the most important, in your mind, the most important soft skills that somebody could have working in themed entertainment?
Your ability to communicate. There are people that they're kind of afraid to put themselves out there. And,
Introverts, a lot of introverts
introverts.
in the mathematical science side of things.
In general, you're working on these projects and there's these teams that are just massive. So like you have to be able to communicate your part of it to the other team members, and you also have to be able to say it in a way that like everybody will understand. You have to explain it to a project manager who can go explain it to a customer or something like that.
Yeah,
if you're
of
not
course.
going to directly communicate to the customer. So that's kind of important, you know?
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah. Another thing I think too is just your ability to like, if you wait for somebody to come tell you what to do, you're going to be waiting forever. You know what I mean? You kind of have to find your foot in the door, literally, and then just kind of be like, I think I can do that, and then work towards it. You know what I mean? And work yourself in there. And that's just kind of the thing is like, people will notice that if you're like, okay, this person's communicating, they have an interest in it, and they're trying, like, okay, like, let's give them the support they need kind of thing. And you kind of just make your own path, you know?
Well, this leads into my next question, because you've been around a little while, but you haven't been in themed entertainment that long. So let's talk about, like, if somebody who wants to transition industries, they work somewhere else in a totally different industry, but they really want to work in themed entertainment, what would you tell them?
The way I got into the position was like through somebody I knew. So if you know somebody in the industry, just be like, hey, do you have any openings at your, employment or whatever? Maybe the job that you take isn't the job that you ultimately want to do. And then also too, maybe like, like this is your way in, but then you pivot, you know what I mean?
Exactly. So you have to be willing to maybe do a job that isn't your dream job, but it gets you in the door.
Sometimes you just got to move boxes, you know,
right.
stuff like that.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that here. Is there anything else that you want to tell people about how to find success in themed entertainment?
You get out of it what you put in. If you're on the fence about doing it, obviously, absolutely do it. And like at the end of the day, we're all theme park kids. You get in here and you're like, oh, look at this. This is so cool. Okay, cool. And like next thing you know, you're like, these rocks over here are awesome. And then you're like, I wonder how this theme park ride was built. And then next thing you know, you're just like, you eat, sleep, and breathe it. And it's great.
All right. Well, I appreciate you being a guest.
No problem. Well, thank you for having me.
So if you made it this far into the episode, I know you really want to work in themed entertainment. You're really curious. All my guests had really good advice. I'm going to give you my personal advice, and that's just to be somebody who other people want to work with, be a joy to be around, and have a positive attitude. People don't like negative people. No matter what kind of job you have, what kind of role you have a little bit of ambition, mixed in, but just be somebody that people can rely on. And that's always going to be good advice no matter what industry you're looking to get into. That's a wrap on another Foot in the Door episode. Thanks again to everyone who participated, and thank you all very much for listening. And one more thing, congratulations to all the recent graduates. See you next month for an all-new episode. Thank you for listening to Experience Imagination, a Falcons Creative Group production. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. Be sure to check out falconscreativegroup.com and follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you have ideas for future episodes or just want to drop us a message, send an email to podcast@falconscreativegroup.com.